Pac-12 Media Days, and we have on tap for you Oklahoma head coach Brent Venables and so much more. Let's go. It's the #1 college football show. I'm pleased to be joined by Oklahoma coach Brent Venables. Coach, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. It's about that time, so we're doing good.
Well, I'm excited about this time because we're talking about a Big 12 that we've never seen before. 14 teams in the league this year. Your last year as a Big 12 member. What are you looking forward to this season from your Oklahoma Sooners?
Yeah, and historically speaking, again, you're talking to somebody that has had the good fortune to be a part of this league since its inception, transitioning as a player and a coach from the Big 8 to the Big 12 and coaching in the first Big 12 game in the history of the conference. So Texas Tech and Kansas State, Zebby Lethridge, Byron Hanspard, Spike Dykes, the great Spike Dykes. So just, again, as a purist and loyalist, somebody that is about relationships and not having been exposed to, more than just 2 conferences. It's, I'm really excited for this to be Oklahoma's last season in the conference. At the end of the day, you peel it all back. This is about us being as competitive and as good as we can be, in our last year here. This is a heck of a league, tremendous depth in this league and fantastic coaching and as good of players as there is in college football. And so Oklahoma doesn't sneak up on anybody. So, it presents its challenges, and it's really exciting to have we're going to play 3 of those new 4 teams in the league, and excellent coaches and players, and the history that these programs have as well, whether it's Cincinnati being a playoff team just a couple of years ago, or, have faced BYU a few different times in their career, so understand, what they bring to the table from a maturity standpoint. And Coach Malzahn and I, while he was at both Tulsa and Auburn, have crossed paths many a times.
Well, Coach, I actually want to talk a little bit about those traditions that may or may not be going away. Coach Gundy at Oklahoma State felt pretty sure that this is going to be the last time we see a Bedlam football game. I wonder, would you like to see that game get played while being head coach at Oklahoma after this season?
Yeah, I'll play, coach against whoever they tell us we're going to play. So, again, I love rivalry games. It's, unfortunate that for the time being we won't be playing them, but we'll have enough challenges, on our schedule, and we'll see. But we'll play, who they tell us that we're going to play.
There have been 5 teams that have won 100 games or more over the past decade, right? Alabama, Clemson, we're talking about Georgia. We're also talking about Oklahoma and Alabama, Ohio State. Of those 5 teams, only one of those teams hadn't won a national championship the last decade, having been a part of a team that won a national championship and is on that list. How close are the Sooners to playing for national titles again?
Yeah, again, I think you got to have a lot of things go your way, from leadership, experience, staying healthy. You got to build it the right way. You don't just luck up and show up into the national championship game. You got to have a lot of good things, go your way. And, so for us, building this thing the right way, obviously you got to have great quarterback play. It starts on those lines of scrimmages. You got to build competitive depth, so you can have the competitive stamina that it requires as well. And you got to have playmakers, on both sides of the ball. So, I love what we're doing, with our first several, recruiting classes and, guys that we've brought in from a transfer standpoint, and then how we're developing our current players. I think, there is no question that we're doing this thing the right way. And when that'll happen, we'll see. There's a lot of things that got to take place. We got a lot of improvement to do, though. I can promise you, before we're worried about that. And we got a lot of things that we got to get better at.
This year has been one of transition like last year. It feels like Oklahoma is also getting out of their comfort zone just a little bit. You went into the portal to go fill some needs. I wonder, now that you have had your hands on the program for the better part of 2 years, does it feel much more like your program, or I should say the program that you want the fans to be excited about? And are you getting closer and closer to perhaps being able to build that foundation that you're so interested in building, apart from having to go get guys from all over the country that may or may not have learned how to do it the first time the right way at Oklahoma?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, there's been tremendous turnover 2 years in a row for us. We've got 40 new scholarship players. You got 85 on scholarship. So you're looking at, 50% of your roster, give or take, is brand new. We've got 63 newcomers. A year ago, we had 47 newcomers. So we got 63 newcomers with scholarship and walk-ons. And, so the lack of stability isn't something. You want continuity, and you want consistency in your roster. We're going to get to that, I believe, after this year. But as you graduate players and, players move on, which is the great thing in college football, I think it creates, exciting opportunities for new guys. And it's a tremendous challenge that everybody where college football is today, to have to deal with the same types of instability. And so I love the challenge of it, and for me, I think we have give or take 12, returning starters on paper, which is not a lot, but we have a lot of returning players. And I think the real key to our success is how quickly can we get the newcomers, whether they're freshmen or the 17 transfers that we have coming in, and combined with our, walk-ons in our program, how quickly can we get these guys to be cohesive? How quickly can we get them to blend in the right way, learn how we do what we do with the returning players, so that we can, again, be whole in all 3 phases of the game. And so that's exciting to me. But I really see, moving forward, we won't, a year from now, we're not going to be talking about having 40 new scholarship players. That's just, I don't see that as happening within our roster. And so that's going to benefit us, developing the team the right way. That 3rd or 4th year player usually plays a little bit better, more confident, more consistent, at a higher, more aggressive, precise, accountable level than the 1st year player does, the 2nd year player. So this is a developmental game, and we want to be a developmental program. And we really, everybody's going to be affected to some degree by the portal and the ability for the players to, move from one program to the next. And we want to build our program, out of the high school ranks and meet the needs when we have to, because of graduation, exhausting eligibility, at the right spots, from a portal standpoint. That's never going to go away.
My last one for you, Coach. Have you had to temper not just the expectations, but the enthusiasm from Oklahoma fans who are very excited to be joining the SEC in a year's time? You still got a season of football left to play.
Yeah. Again, listen, when you're at a place like Oklahoma, one of the things that makes Oklahoma so incredibly, special is the passion and the enthusiasm, the hunger from our fan base to be successful. And they have high expectations, and so do we. I can promise you nobody has higher expectations of themselves or of the Oklahoma Sooners than we do inside our locker room. But I welcome that. That's one of the reasons I took this job. And this will be my 15th year in Norman, Oklahoma. And I love this community. I love the past, the tradition, the history, and so do our fans. And so I want to continue to build those expectations and the enthusiasm and the passion that these fans have. That's what makes this place such a special place. And but they're going to be every bit as excited this year, in the Big 12 as much as they will, here in the future in the SEC.
I'm telling you, that scene at Rudy's, I was kind of floored by it. I didn't expect folks to want to show up for such a year in advance, right, in the summer, talk about an SEC schedule, but yet they seem to be all about it and really excited about these games to come and with future of Oklahoma football, yourself included. I got to say, Coach, you're the person that's always pointing out, hey, I've been here before. I know what it's like to win here. I know what it looks like when we're winning here. We're not there yet, but we're going to get there. Oklahoma coach Brent Venables, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
Thanks for having me on, RJ. Great to see you.
You too, sir. I'm pleased to be joined by Oklahoma wide receiver Drake Stoops. Drake, how you doing?
I'm doing well, RJ. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk with you because this is the first time I've actually got to sit down and speak with you about much of anything, Drake. And the first question I have for you is, did you think you would be a 6-year senior when you first decided to walk on at Oklahoma?
Yeah, I'd have to say definitely not, considering no one saw the COVID year coming into play for sure. But, when I walked on, I just wanted to do the best with the opportunity that I could. And right now, I thought it would be best for me to come back for this 6th year and continue to pursue that and continue to work at that. And that's why I'm here right now.
You told the OU Daily, which I'm proud to say I used to work at, that, why wouldn't you want to come back and play football one more year at Oklahoma? But I also am very, very interested in the journey that you've taken to get to this point where you're a leader on the football team. And Coach Riley had said at one point, I was probably a little too hard on evaluation with you. And yet you have shown up every time they've asked you to show up. Tell me just a little bit about how you decided that you wanted to walk on at Oklahoma, and then what it felt like for you to become a scholarship player and then a leader on this team.
Yeah, it's been a long journey, and coming out of high school, I had some offers to some other schools, and I just decided that Oklahoma was a place I wanted to be. I felt like I was capable of working hard and earning an opportunity here, and so that's why I decided ultimately to walk on at Oklahoma. And then as it progressed, I just worked really hard as a youngster, and that slowly brick by brick accumulated, and there's a lot of good fortune in there, whether it's a lucky break and an opportunity presents itself. But I think the work prepared me for that opportunity, and then I slowly worked my way into the offense and started gaining those opportunities and doing my best to capitalize on them. And then now that I'm older, not by default, but as you get older and you get experienced and you've been through a lot, it's kind of your obligation to your team to start leading them and leading young guys through similar adversity you had went through, and also just being a voice of reason and a voice that leads the way in your team.
Did it break your pops' heart just a little bit to know that you're a wideout and not a safety?
No, not at all. I mean, he supports me either way, but it would have been cool if I could have lined up against him 1 or 2 times as safety.
Who do you think would have won that one?
I'm going to go with me. He played in that old school Big Ten back in the day. They weren't throwing the ball like we do now, so.
Certainly not. Totally different brand of football, but also you are becoming a different football player, right? It's one of the things that I've been very fascinated with is your maturity on the field, but you're also doing it with that name on your back. What does it feel like when you hear fans give a loud Stoops when you make a play?
Yeah, that's been an interesting dynamic as it's grown, and I think it's very cool. And I'm just fortunate they're that excited for me, and I have that much support behind my back. And we have one of the best fan bases in all the country, and that just shows it right there, showing that much support. And the funny thing is, the first time it happened, I thought I was getting booed, and then I realized I wasn't. I just kind of laughed about it after the fact. But I think it's a very cool thing that they've started, and I'll always appreciate it.
It's been an interesting phenomenon to watch because it doesn't always go that way, right? Usually you might get a little bit of a stigma being the son of a legendary head coach in the way that Coach Stoops is, and yet I can't find anybody that is not rooting for you specifically. Do you feel a little bit buoyed by that, if not some pressure to perform?
I don't think anyone could ever put more pressure on me than I put on myself, or have higher expectations than I have for myself. So that doesn't burden me whatsoever. I work very hard, and I expect the most out of myself because of that work. And so no, I wouldn't say the last name or anything like that provides more pressure, but it's definitely an opportunity And at the end of the day, I appreciate them embracing me for who I am, because I'm always going to be me, and I always see myself as an individual, no matter who my dad is. And so I always appreciate that they're showing me support and they're happy for my success, not only just because my dad used to coach here, but for me just as an individual and the walk it took me to get here.
It dawned on me not too long ago that you have spent basically your life in Norman, and being the son of Bob Stoops, that is kind of been interesting to view, right? Because that's your father and everybody else is Coach Stoops. So if you could you tell me a story about what kind of dad Coach Stoops is as opposed to what kind of coach Coach Stoops is?
Oh yeah, this is an easy story. So when we were young kids, I have a twin brother, Isaac, and so, my dad used to ask for autographs a lot of times, and so naturally, being a little kid, like my brother, he wanted one too. So like we were at home, and he's like, "Dad, can you sign my hat?" And instead of signing it Bob Stoops like he did everyone else, he just signed it Dad. And my brother walked off happy as all get out because he didn't know any better. But that just shows you, he's dad to us, and we never really quite understood that whole dynamic until you got older. And now that you're in it, you understand what that means to people, and so it's cool to be able to see both sides.
That is actually perfect, because why would you sign it any other way other than Dad?
Exactly.
Last one for you is that receiving core is getting overhauled, and it looks like you, a couple other guys, are going to be responsible for catching a bunch of passes from Dillon Gabriel. Who are some of the guys on that receiving core that you expect to have big seasons along with yourself?
I expect everyone to contribute. We've had a heck of a spring and a heck of a summer, and I think we're continuing to learn and continuing to grow in our position group. But guys like Jalil Farouk and Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson, and Andrew Anthony, who just transferred in, myself, as you said, and then Gavin Freeman, who exploded on the scene last year, and then even Jaquez Petaway coming in as a freshman. And we got Brennan Thompson coming from Texas. I mean, we just have a lot more competitive depth, and I think that'll help us down the stretch of games and down the stretch of a long season. But I mean, we definitely have a lot of guys that are hungry and ready to contribute all across the board.
You could tell DJ Graham that if he makes that kind of play he did a couple years ago, where he snatches the ball out of the air with one hand, that he can just catch that one. Nobody's going to give him any static for making that play on the offensive side of the ball. Still
definitely.
One of the most
good to have
fantastic
him too.
catches I've ever seen. Yeah, do you remember that catch?
Yeah. Oh yeah, unbelievable. He's a big body, athletic as all get out, big hands, one hand, anything. Yeah, it shows up in practice too.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see it in the game then. Drake Stoops, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
I'm pleased to be joined by Oklahoma quarterback Dillon Gabriel. Dillon, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good, sir. Very excited to see you. Very excited to see that you're healthy. Very excited to see that you are ready to play in 2023. Big transition year for Oklahoma, but also a year for which you know what's coming associated with that jersey that you're playing with now. What have you changed about yourself, if anything, from last year going into this 2023 season?
Just been super, focused and crucial about myself and my playing ability, just mentally, physically, emotionally, just as a full circle, just trying to get better in every which way I can. But obviously, the situational football, just putting the emphasis on that when it comes to, my game.
I read that you and Coach Levy watched every single game from last year and then watched it breaking down protections and concepts. What did you learn from that process?
I think I learned a lot, when it comes to when you're watching it, nothing's as good as it seems and nothing's as bad as it seems. So just playing each play individually, trying to get, our O-line in the best protection possible, but then also just taking, the easy access throws as much as I can. And I think just throughout that time of watching it, learned a lot about, just our team and how much better we can be, how much more efficient we can be, and just have seen that a bunch throughout our off season, as we gain confidence through those, camps.
One of the things that you also pointed out is that good football teams on the offensive side don't have themselves in a bunch of 3rd and long situations, and they take great advantage of the 3rd and short situations. Have you made a pivot in the scheme and the game plan to making some of those easier throws and letting your playmakers do what they do best?
Yeah, I think, finding, ways to get our playmakers in space is obviously a big emphasis in general, but, also being really good on 1st and 2nd down so that our 3rd downs, are a lot more manageable. So, situational football is obviously crucial, but just putting an emphasis in general on helping ourselves out on 1st and 2nd so that our 3rds, we can be highly efficient.
Lots of new blood in the program for a 2nd year in a row, but you being a veteran in this program now means that you're one of the guys that's going to have to try to ingratiate the new guys into what the culture is. How difficult or how easy has that been for you to be one of the leaders on that football team that is saying this is how we do it at Oklahoma?
It's been a lot easier, obviously being in year 2 and just having the trust of the guys and obviously being around each other for a year, getting a lot closer on and off the field has been a big help for me, being vocal, but also just cohesion in general. I think, Coach BV has done a great job of bringing in guys who understand, what we're about, our culture, and buy into, really just pouring into one another. And I think with the combination of our leaders, being able to be vocal and put cohesion at the forefront of what we're about, and then guys coming in and accepting that, it's been really good for us.
What kind of quarterback is Jackson Arnold?
He's a stud, man. He's a stud. He's a great kid, but also just very willing to learn. And I think that's the biggest thing, coming into college is just being able to, be a sponge and learn as much as you can so that when you have your opportunity, you take advantage of it. So he's definitely that type of guy, and having him in the room can only benefit everyone.
How welcome was the surprise of Gavin Freeman's play for you last year?
Amazing. Something that I've seen him do, in the fall, leading up to that season, but just seeing him do it in person and in a game setting is obviously super, stoked for him. But, a lot of big opportunities for him coming up, and just really blessed to have him again, just getting better and being more confident in the system.
This is Oklahoma's last year in the Big 12. Tell me what it would mean for you to bring Oklahoma back to a Big 12 championship and hopefully win a Big 12 championship this year in their last year in this conference.
Man, it means everything. That's the standard here, and that's what we're about. It's what we expect, which is a great culture to be a part of. And yeah, like I said, that's our goal. That's where we want to be. So, taking the necessary steps, one step at a time, being where our feet are, and, when that time comes, being right in that moment and being excited for it.
Oklahoma quarterback Dillon Gabriel, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
Thank you.
I'm pleased to be joined by Oklahoma State wide receiver Brennan Presley. Brennan, how you doing?
I'm doing good, RJ. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. How does it feel to be an elder statesman at Oklahoma State now? You wanted the Cats.
It feels old, kind of being here for a little bit, but it also feels good to be able to offer up some of my experience and I can't say youthfulness anymore, but to offer some of my elderness to some of the young guys who are just now getting in, just so they don't make the same mistakes that I do, and they can continue on the tradition.
Well, and in continuing that tradition, you had an inflection point, right? 17 dudes left in the transfer portal, and you also got a quarterback derby going on right in front of us with Garrett Rango and Alan Bowman. How have you tried to be a calming force inside of that locker room for the guys that are unfamiliar with this kind of upheaval?
I think that's something that's it's not necessarily one person's job, because like you said, when you have so many people coming in, and you have the people that came back, I think it's kind of like a collective job for us to just offer up what the school means to us and like what the culture is like, so those new guys can understand it, but also that like those guys coming in, they have been extremely great with understanding it and just falling in line and just letting us teach them. There's no like press back against one another like I want to do this, do that. Like they've been great in letting us like teach them, and they've been helping us along the way, like realizing stuff from like other schools too. So I mean, it's really good when we can all like get on the same page and communicate. So it's not necessarily my job or any other body's job, but like everybody can come together and kind of like help one another out.
So you got to play a bit with Garrett Rangel last year, and there were times when he looked outstanding, particularly against Kansas. I think he had over 300 yards passing. And then Coach Gundy pulls Alan Bowman out of the portal, who had been at Michigan the last couple of years, won a couple Big Ten championships, saw a college football playoff team play, and had started at Texas Tech. How have you been trying to make yourself available to both of those guys so that they both get the best out of themselves, find out who your starting quarterback's going to be by week 1?
I mean, it's definitely been interesting, cause like being with Garrett from like last year, I love Garrett. I mean, that dude, he's a warrior. He wanted to work all the time. So like sometimes I gotta tell him to slow down, just cause like he wants to work so much. So it's just that thing of kind of like I feel like I'm an older brother to him, and like with Alan now here, it's kind of the thing of like I have played here, but he's also played in the past too. So it's like I kind of want to learn from him. He's been at Texas Tech was an air raid, and then Michigan was the NFL pro style offense. So it's like there's a lot of things that he knows that he can teach me too. So there's a lot of things that we can all, like I said, we can all like learn from each other and piggyback on. So I want to learn from him as much. And Garrett and Alan, they're both competitors, so they're gonna compete as hard as they can. But at the end of the day, they're on the same team, so they know that whoever wins the competition, it is what it is. But they're gonna help each other out and just get this train rolling.
Has Coach Gundy or Coach Dunn, for that matter, given y'all any direction on how you were supposed to operate within this offense, knowing that each one of those guys is going to get as many snaps as they need to try to figure out who your best quarterback is going to be?
I mean, the direction really just comes from us, and then because at the end of the day, we're the people on the field, so it's kind of like. And they both kind of have the same style, and I mean the style really at OSU is not really going to change that much in terms of just air raiding it and just needing to like run the ball and like ground and pound. So I don't think the style is going to change that much. So like since Garrett and Alan both have similar like styles, that I think is really easier for like this year for us to just dial in on like one focus and like how we're gonna play as an offense, and so that makes it easier for everybody else not to have to learn like a different style or anything like that. Knowing that if we need to run the ball, bam, we can do it. If we need to throw the ball, bam, they can both do it.
Every year, Oklahoma State has one dude on the offense or one dude on the defense, and nobody saw it coming that has a big year, right? It's almost as if it's part of the entertainment value that is at Stillwater. So I'm going to give you opportunity as a known commodity to point me in the direction of the next great Oklahoma star that we need to be, or excuse me, Oklahoma State star that we need to be ready for.
See, I don't really want to do that, because now, like, if y'all see it coming, then I want this person
just
to make.
Between you and me.
I'm telling you. We got 3 receivers: Leon, Striv, and AB. I'm telling you, all 3 of them can go off.
Okay.
Leon, 6'6", a giant. AB played at Iowa, and then Striv was, Washington State leading receiver last year. So I'm telling you, all of them, they have the mindset. They got the talent, they got the work ethic. So I think honestly, this is gonna be a really great season. But see, I don't want to tell you that now, because then when it happens, you ain't gonna be surprised. I want the surprise. I want the surprise to be there for the season.
Hey, look, I'm gonna tell everybody that Brennan told me what was gonna happen, and he tried to let y'all know back in July. That's how I'm playing.
Hey,
you don't want that?
They better recognize.
Okay, all right.
Get the popcorn ready.
So, hey,
they better start drinking some.
No, on the flip side, Coach Gundy be all over the map when he go get his dudes, but his dudes be real good. Now, the way I'm putting at this is, I didn't know who Brian Nardo was until Coach Gundy tapped him to be defense coordinator. And all of a sudden he shows up
Yes.
there, and I'm hearing all sorts of things about how nice the defense is. So you get to play against defense. How nice is the defense?
The defense is really nice. That's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to tell you about it because I've talked to this guy, and this guy is super smart. Like, he knows his football, and like, I wish you could just see him, because I think the best thing about Gundy, because he brings in great coaches and players, and people are like, how does he keep doing it? It's not that he brings in great like players, he brings in great people. You know, when you focus on the people first and like the person aspect of it, then the talent and all that stuff, like, everybody got it. So when you focus on the person first, then all that stuff is going to trickle down. So I'm telling Brian Nardo, let's feel weird, Coach Nardo, he's done a great job, and he's super smart, and I can't wait to see how he does and the defense is going to do, because I feel like he took like a 4-day vacation, even though they got like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, he wants to be up there. He wants to be ready for the season. Like, I can't wait for all the success that's coming his way.
Well, I think that enthusiasm is a great place to leave it. Oklahoma State wide receiver Brennan Presley, thank you so much for taking time to join little old RJ on the #1 college football show.
Yes, sir.
I'm pleased to be joined by Kansas coach Lance Leipold. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing well today. How are you?
I'm good, sir. I want to start this conversation by asking, how does it feel to be the man that turned Kansas into the lunch pact? So my daddy used to say, if you're going to go play against that team, you better have your lunch packed.
I appreciate that. We took a nice step last year, and I think our program's gained some respect, but as you know, it's a week in and week out type of thing, and we've got to find a way to play a little better than we did down the stretch last year. But I'm so proud of our guys. I think we've got a great nucleus coming back with experience and a group that's determined to take another step.
You've got a fan base that is excited about the preseason for Kansas football. And the first time, I think, in about 15 years here, Coach, and we're talking about a Big 12 that's gotten larger, but also a lot thicker through the middle. And y'all get to take a bunch of credit for that. So I'm asking, I understand it's a week-to-week thing. What is the big picture goal for the Kansas Jayhawks in 2023?
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, because I think, when people say top to bottom, we've become one of the best conferences, I think it's because we're starting to pull our share of the rope. And now with that, we've got to find a way to, like I said, when we go on the road last year against Oklahoma and they got real hot. Baylor, we turned the ball over a couple times and we fall down multiple scores. We got to find a way to close a gap, play better on third down, still be the diverse offense that we've been in. And also, I think we've made some adjustments in our special teams that'll give us a better chance, that allow us to maybe, steal a possession, get an extra first down in the return game, things like that. Those are going to be the small things for us, again, in what you've alluded to be even a more competitive conference now with our new additions.
You went bowling last year, and I got to say, it's like winning a national championship watching KU go bowling for the first time in 15 years. I understand for you, though, that's part of it, right? You've been on this journey before. Mm-hmm. How have you seen some of your players react to not just their success last year, but perhaps even looking at a Texas Christian going, well, hell, we ain't that far away from being able to be as good as they are, and they played in the national championship game?
Well, RJ, that's what I always appreciate about you, because you always bring it back to some things that are really relative, and I truly appreciate that, because, we lost Jalen Daniels in that TCU game, and though difficult, we played and battled back and lost a close one there and had opportunities. And then, as you said, we went to a bowl game, and you watch what the great year TCU had and making it to the national championship. We go to a bowl game and get a taste of it, and a lot to be proud of there. And we had, we're down 3 scores at half and things, and then all of a sudden we battled back and put that thing in overtime for an exciting game. That alone gives us the chance to show, hey, we're close, but we got a lot of work to do. And I think our players really embrace that heading into the spring and winter conditioning sessions.
I know that Jalen has gotten a lot of attention, and rightfully so. We were talking about him really being a Heisman finalist in late October because he was playing so well. But as that dude's the driver of your offense, I like to tell people that Devin Neal is the power unit. having that guy in the backfield seemed to change the way that y'all could operate offensively. What other steps has he taken to ensure that he has that same level of productivity for you in 2023?
I think Devin is, from the second he stepped on campus, he's worked to perfect his craft. He's very businesslike when he goes about it. He takes pride in what he's doing, but he's working harder at being the most complete back he can be, whether it be in the pass game, pass protections, understanding the offense and the whys. I think when they understand a little bit more on how it all pieces together, it allows them to even be better players. And along with Devin and the great season that he had, we need a healthy Daniel Highshaw to complement him and his physical style of play that'll, again, add to the diversity and what we can do as an offense. And I think, what we were doing in that first 4 games of the year, 5 games before we lost both Daniel and Jalen, I think we're really clicking, and hopefully we can find a way to get that unit back to where they were right off the start.
I've been so proud to see how your offensive line has progressed from your first year to your second year to your third year. And now you add a guy in Logan Brown from Wisconsin that I assume you're going to make into or want to be the anchor of that offensive line. How important is that addition to your offensive line and really trying to push toward not just that run game, but your pass protection?
Yeah, adding Logan Brown was a big get for us, and our strength coach had a relationship with him from high school. Logan's a quality young man who works extremely hard. I like, we have 4 returning starters on the offensive line. We have a chance to really make that unit even deeper. I think last year, the first 5 plus maybe a couple, you're kind of holding your breath about staying healthy. I think we've got 3-4 guys that could equally start and then hopefully rotate some. And RJ, hopefully that gives us that, as we talk about that back half of the season, maybe we're a little fresher team. Maybe we got a little more experience when you do lose a guy for a game or so. We'll have that opportunity to keep it rolling with the depth, especially on that side of the football.
Having men that big and large and move the way some of those men move, you can't have enough of those. I'm also looking at the other side of that ball, Coach, and you got 4 guys returning in that secondary, but I got to ask, is it 4 guys returning that secondary, or is it 4 guys returning that gave up 459 and 30 a game?
Well, I think, again, holistically as a defense, we got to be better. I like where our secondary is. I think Kobe Bryant was a first-team all-conference. Kenny Logan's been an all-conference player, has a lot of experience. O.J. Burrow's played a lot. Our third safety, Marvin Grant, is now more comfortable in our scheme. He started some games at Purdue before he came. Mello Dotson is the other corner who I continue to see grow in confidence and how he goes about it. All 3 linebackers come back. I think that, we've got to start up front. We've got to be able to get pressure on the quarterback and play the run a little bit better. And I'm excited to see what our new additions do there as well.
I'm really excited to see what you look like. And by you, I mean Kansas Jayhawks in 2023, because this is such a year of transition, not just for Kansas, but for the Big 12 at large. I wonder how you feel about the state of the program and the state of the conference with Oklahoma, Texas joining the SEC, but also you get 4 new additions, Central Florida, Cincinnati, BYU, and Houston.
Well, again, where we match up, I think as we've seen, we've been able to put ourselves in a very competitive environment week in and week out. We've got to be able to make that happen throughout the course of the season. We had a chance to play Houston last year, so we got a little bit idea what that program's like. Played them on the road. We had 3 quality programs, and you look at the success that they've had in each and every program, parts of country that they all come from that could open doors for all of us in recruiting, but they have nice recruiting backyards of when, where, and how they get their players. So it's going to still make it a very competitive thing. That it might be who's playing at home. It might be how you really, like it always is, probably how you match up against certain teams, and it's going to be exciting. And I think that makes what we had some meetings in May in Arizona, and I think again when you talk to every coach, I think there's a lot of mutual respect about the balance from all the way through 1 through 14 for this year and 1 through 12 moving forward.
Coach Leipold, I always look forward to catching up with you. Thank you so much for taking some time here at Big 12 Media Days to talk with us here on the #1 college football show.
Thank you very much, RJ. Appreciate everything you do for college football.
I'm pleased to be joined by Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
It feels as if you should be walking around as the cock of the walk, as you are the reigning Big 12 champion. Do you feel like you're being treated like the reigning Big 12 champion?
I would rather we weren't treated like that. Yeah, we had a special season last year, and we got a lot of experience coming back from that season, but we've got to put that one behind us, and we've got to move on to the next year. We've got to be able to draw back on those experiences of a great year, but in the same respect, we know this league too well. Anybody can beat anybody of the 14 teams, so we'd rather have a chip on our shoulder and play with a little bit of disrespect.
This conference is so thick through the middle. I don't think it's been this competitive since the Big 12 was first formed, and yet here you are, reigning Big 12 champ, going into the season with a quarterback who was unproven to start the season and now looks like one of the better players in this league. You've said over and over again, this is Will Howard's squad in 2023. How has he answered the bell when you've asked him to lead?
Well, he brings everybody together, and he's got belief in himself. He has the belief of the teammates, and you know, they also, there's a lot of kids on that team that saw Will struggle. And he didn't quit. He didn't, you know, blame people. He just put his head down and went to work. And the success that Will Howard had last year in 2022 was all earned. And our kids, especially the ones that have been here with him for 3 years, saw that. And so there's the ultimate respect for somebody because he's had it hard, and he got through that tough times and came out stronger on the other end. So I think he can share some experiences with young guys that don't give up on yourself, don't keep grinding, you're going to have tough times, and I think the tough times that you have make you stronger. And I see that with Will Howard. Everybody in the entire building believes that Will Howard you can win a Big 12 championship with.
It's been awe-inspiring for me to see what you have done at Kansas State since being there, but none has gotten my attention more than how you can just stomp a mud hole in my Oklahoma Sooners, it seems like, anytime you want to. However, when you look at this program and you look at what Kansas State has become, why do you think you need to have the chip on your shoulder? Why do you think you need to possess this mentality of, no, that was last year, we got to earn it all over again?
Yeah, we're never going to have from the national brand the respect probably of some of the marquee names, and I'm okay with that. I really am, because you still have to prove it in between the lines. And I'd say you bring up a good point about the Oklahoma, and we don't play them this year, but we got beat by Tulane last year, and everybody thought Tulane was not a good football team. And they end up going and beating USC in the Cotton Bowl. And then the next week we go to Oklahoma, and I knew we had a good football team. I knew we had a really good team. And I don't think we were overlooked or anything like that. But if you don't have your A game every game, you're going to get beat. And I think Adrian Martinez played the best college football game of any quarterback I saw last year, until you got to Will Howard late in the season and what Will did. But that's sometimes the disrespect that we get, but that's why I want those kids to play with a chip on their shoulder.
You don't have Deuce Vaughn, who you'll know is one of the better Kansas State players that we've ever seen, and certainly over the last 10 years. No disrespect to your offensive coordinator. However, you bring in a Trayshawn Ward. You know what you have in a DJ Giddens. What are you asking those guys to be? Because you're obviously not going to ask them to be Deuce Vaughn.
Well, you hit it on the head. They can't be Deuce Vaughn. They got to be DJ and Trayshawn. And Deuce Vaughn was one of the most electrifying college football players in the history of the game for a 3-year period. And so I think Colin Klein, our OC, is going to be excited because it was last year, how are we getting the ball to Deuce as much as we can? And now we have to spread the ball around a lot more. And we have really good depth in that running back room, more depth than we've ever had. And it starts with DJ and Trayshawn Ward. Those two guys are the ones that people are talking about. There might be some other guys as well. And then you look at our wide receivers and tight ends. We have one of the best tight ends in the country, fullback, tight end, slash. He does everything. He's actually a wide receiver too, in Ben Sennett. That's 6'3.5", 255, runs really well. So I think Colin's going to have more fun designing game plans that get everybody involved.
Your game plan has also been one that I've really enjoyed. Sometimes y'all run like a fake pull power, and I'll be like, where the hell did that come from? So the things that y'all are able to do offensively, I've always, as a football nerd, very intrigued by. But you can do that because you have an offensive line that understands what they're doing. How important is it for you to have those 5 guys returning that can lead you on that offensive line?
Well, they're the heartbeat of our football team, and every place I've ever been, you have to be able to run the football. Make no mistake, you have to be able to run the football. Even in games where we threw it 30 or 35 times, and that's still not very much in today's game with people throwing it 45, 55 times, you have to be able to run the football. And those guys take great pride in that. Yeah, you got to be able to protect the passer and those things, but they take tremendous pride in being able to push people off the ball, run the football, and just keep the chains moving and keep defenses on the field. And, we have our top 8 returning, and not just those 5, but I think we have really good quality depth and some really good young players that we're going to play a lot more players, especially early on, so that, we can see what the future is too.
My last one for you, Coach, is how do you feel about the future of the sport of college football as you see it continue to take on more change in the last 5 years than I think it had in the previous 40?
Yeah. It's really strong. We're always going to have challenges. Right now, we are going through some challenges, but the game itself is really, really strong. It's never been more popular. You look at the TV deal that we signed, even though we're losing OU and Texas, we signed a better deal than when we had them. I think that the transfer portal has been good for college football. It's been good for Kansas State. We've had, Julius Brents and Cade Warner and Adrian Martinez and Josh Hayes, all guys that are on NFL rosters that came into our program. So it's always going to evolve. But I think that's what you want, is to continue to have the game evolve, but to continue to have the game as strong as it's ever been.
Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman, thank you so much, sir, for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
Appreciate it.
I'm pleased to be joined by Kansas State quarterback Will Howard. Will, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good, sir. I want to congratulate you on winning a Big 12 championship, but I would say that's nothing new for you because I was doing a little research beforehand, and you led your high school to their first district title since 1996, just a few years ago. So this winning championship thing seems to come easy to you.
Yeah, no, it was being able to win that Big 12 championship was really cool. And obviously, when I was in high school, I was like, man, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. And then being able to go out there, in AT&T Stadium and win it against TCU, the 3rd best team in the country, take away their undefeated season, man, it was so cool, and just the experience of it and being able to be out there with my brothers doing that thing, man, and kind of coming out the other side of a lot of hard times was really cool.
Well, don't short yourself. It's the 2nd best team in the country, despite what the scoreboard said in the national championship.
Yeah.
But it underscores what I think is the strength of this conference for which you are responsible. So I want to talk a bit about you here. When you started, you played so terribly well, and it frankly did not look like the guy that I'd seen a year before. What clicked for you in 2022?
I feel like a lot of it was just my confidence. And, when I went out there as a true freshman in 2020 and 2021, my confidence was kind of in the dumps. I was kind of swimming. I was just floating out there. I didn't really understand what we were doing offensively, what was going on. I was just a young cat and made some mistakes and let that kind of affect my confidence. But when I went out there last year, man, against TCU, when I finally got my chance, I felt like I had put a lot of work in, and I felt like I was where I wanted to be. And, finally getting to go out there and see myself do it, I really, that's what it really took. Just being able to see that happen in person and doing it, I was like, man, I can really do anything. This is just football. This is what I've done my whole life. And I felt like I was finally back to myself last year. I felt like I lost a little bit of love for the game when I was a young kid. I had a lot of rough times that I went through, but being able to go through that, in the moment I wasn't, I didn't know that, what it was going to do for me in the future. But now looking back at it, I wouldn't be the player and the person I am without it. So just being able to kind of make it through all those tough times was really cool, and to kind of see that work that I put in come to fruition was awesome.
So I'm looking at you, and you're 6'5", you're 240. And I feel like I'm going to keep saying that for the rest of 2023 because I don't think people understand just how large a man you are. But your game is really similar to your offensive coordinators back when he was at Kansas State and Colin Klein. What, if anything, have you modeled your game on after him, or even some other players that you really enjoyed watching growing up?
Yeah, being able to just be in a room with Coach Klein is awesome because, not only does he understand it from a coaching standpoint, he gets it from a player standpoint. He's been there. He understands what it's like to be out there when the lights are on, when, everybody's watching you. So he understands that from that standpoint. And I mean, he was a beast back in the day. I remember watching him, when I was a young kid, and I was like, man, this guy's a tank. Nobody can take him down. And I definitely try to, run like him. I definitely want to make sure that, when I run the ball, he was taking dudes down and making DBs were afraid of him. It's pretty fun to watch his highlights sometimes, but being the mental side of it, having him in the room with me and being able to just chop it up with him and understand what he thinks, what I think. I feel like, at this point we've been together for 4 years. A lot of things we're on the same page about, so that's really cool. And just bouncing ideas off each other. We're just watching film, doing stuff like that. And our relationship has grown so much over the last 4 years. And I'm so thankful that he decided to stay this year, and he's been around for as long as he has, because he's such a huge part of Kansas State and its history and what it's going to continue to do.
You're the reigning Big 12 champ. Has it felt like people have been treating you like the reigning Big 12 champ?
Yeah, I mean, this offseason has definitely been a lot different than the previous off seasons for me personally and for us as a team. I feel like we've always kind of been overlooked and kind of been the underdog going into seasons. We won the Big 12 last year. I don't know where we were picked in the preseason poll, but I know it wasn't as high as we were this year. But I feel like that's kind of who we are, and that's kind of Kansas State. That's that hard-nosed, blue-collar mindset. That we're the underdogs, and even though this year, we kind of have a target on our back, and that script is kind of flipped from, a lot of people are saying, we were the hunter and now we're the hunted, but we're trying to keep that hunter mentality. We're still coming for it all, even though that we are the reigning champs. We're still aiming for that underdog mindset.
I read that you are majoring in accounting. I gotta ask, how did you settle on accounting as a major?
It's funny. I started off in engineering, and that was even worse. Like that one, I went in and I was like, it's not my thing. I thought, I'm a math and science guy. I like numbers, so I was kind of between engineering and business coming in. But once I decided, engineering wasn't for me, I went to business, and I was kind of between finance and accounting. Obviously, I want to play football as long as I possibly can and not have to be an accountant. I don't think I want to be a CPA or anything like that, but I think it's a good degree to have. Obviously being able to take care of your finances and know how to do all that stuff. I'm a numbers nerd, man. It's weird. I like to do all that weird calculations and stuff. I feel like I'd rather do that than write a one-page paper. I'll sit there all day and do the numbers rather than I'm not a writer. I can't do all that stuff.
Well, one, I got a number for you, right? That number is 0, as in there's no Deuce Vaughn anymore. He's gone. You got two guys there that I think are playing, DJ Giddens and Trayshawn Ward. What are you looking for from those two tailbacks to try to, if anything, fill the considerably large shoes, even though he is a short man, of Deuce Vaughn?
Yeah, and that's what everybody's been saying this offseason is, Deuce is gone. What are you guys going to do without him? And obviously, losing Deuce is huge. Deuce was my guy, man. We came in together, in 2020, and we kind of made it through the fire together. Obviously he had a little more success right away, but we were both out there as true freshmen and kind of made it to the other side together. So it was cool to see that, and seeing him be able to move on to the NFL is so cool, and I'm so happy for him. I think he's going to have an immediate impact with the Cowboys. But, the thing that I keep saying is that, DJ and Trayshawn, those guys aren't Deuce Vaughn, and I don't want them to be Deuce Vaughn. There's no replacing Deuce. Deuce was Deuce, and he's going to do what Deuce does. But those guys are different players. They're their own player. And I think I'm really excited to see what they can do. I think Trayshawn has a lot of really good attributes. He's smart. He gets it. You can just tell he came in. He understands. He's been here. He's been at this level. He knows what to do, how things work. And obviously DJ too. I'm excited to see DJ because he had kind of a smaller role last year. I'm excited to see him step into an elevated role and see what he's able to do with that because both of those guys, man, are strong but fast and shifty as all get out, man. I'm excited to see what they do, and they both are really good receivers. I think between those two running behind our 5 offensive linemen that we got returning, I think they can really make some noise in this conference.
I'm curious about you feeling the pressure, if you will, of being the guy. Like Coach Klieman has made it very clear, it's your football team now, in a way that perhaps it wasn't when Adrian Martinez was starting the season. How have you accepted that role?
Yeah, it's huge for me because, going into the last 3 years, I played every single one of those years, but it wasn't my team. I came in as a backup. I was playing in an offense that wasn't tailored to my strengths, I feel like. And now that I can go into this year and say, this is my team, this is, I'm the guy, not only on the field, but leadership-wise, it's huge for me. And I feel like it's just a complete 180 in terms of my mindset. Obviously, when you're the backup, you sit there and you're saying, I'm going to prepare like I'm the starter. I'm going to lead like I'm the starter. But it's different when you really know that that's the case. So going into this year, I'm trying not to take it as pressure. I'm trying to take it as, kind of a privilege. This is a privilege. This is something that not a lot of people get the chance to do, and I'm just blessed to be able to, be a leader on this amazing football team that we're going to have, and I'm really looking forward to it because I think we're going to have an amazing year, and I think a lot of us leaders, we're excited to see where we go because I feel like we just scratched the surface of what we're capable of last year.
Will Howard, who is 6'5", 240, DB, should fear, and is a balanced breakfast over there at quarterback. Thank you so much for joining us here on the #1 college football show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. Good talking to you.
I'm pleased to be joined by Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Going into year 8, Coach, I'm looking at the list of players that you have produced. Breece Hall's a unanimous All-American. Brock Purdy, quarterback the Cyclones, to their first major bowl victory. Xavier Hutchinson was a Biletnikoff Award finalist. Why has Iowa State been so good at producing dudes since you got there?
Well, I think the credit goes to the players. And, we've been able to get the right young men that have been willing to commit to a process to become the best versions of themselves that they can be. And, I think when you say all those names, I think about the maturity and the growth process from 18 to 21 or 22 years old that all these young men had, not just on the football field, but off the field as well. And, to me, that's my joy. That's what I love about coaching, is mentoring and guiding young men to become the best versions of themselves that they can be. And, we've been really fortunate, and you're talking about some of the great players, and I think there's probably a list of hundreds that have come and graduated and that are right now leading a life of, man, they're winning and what they chose to do professionally, what they're great fathers, great husbands, great leaders in their communities. And, that's the joy, and that's what I really love about our program, and it's what I love about what our place has stood for.
How excited were you to see Brock get his opportunity in the playoffs, in NFL playoffs, I should say, and then go through and follow through on what he had there?
Well, it was a great joy for me to watch him have success, and as the country was being captivated by Brock, none of it surprised me. But I think the thing that I probably take the most pride in as a coach, and was when I heard their coaching staff, and I heard some of those NFL vets that are the best of the best at their position group, the McCaffreys, and obviously there's some of those great defensive players in Debo and Trent Williams, and hear what they said about Brock, how he prepared every day, what his process was, all the things that we've tried to work really hard to build in our program, and to hear them explain who he was and what he stood for. I think that was just a great pride for me to watch that all come together on such a powerful stage. So again, who he is so much greater than even what he does as a football player, and it's awesome to watch that come out.
I'm going to ask about another one of your players. It's going to be in the spotlight once again. Breece Hall is a New York Jet. They're going to be in Hard Knocks training camp. One more time for me, Coach, what kind of a player was Breece for you? And then how did he develop into the kind of guy that, in an NFL team values quite a lot?
I think what makes Breece special is he has unbelievable God-given ability. And those are things that he came to Iowa State obviously with. But what I love about Breece is Breece had this mentality to be the best, and how he trained, how he went about his process, how he grew through our program from his freshman year to his junior year. It was powerful. And I think every step of the way he was transcending that incredible ability to something powerful and great. And obviously our fan base at Iowa State and our football team, got the fruits of his labor. And now it's phenomenal to watch the world see it as he's a New York Jet and going in there. And even the season that he had until he was injured last year, it was so awesome to watch this great ability, but this great precision and detail come together as one to be one of the great players in the National Football League last year. And I think there's great things ahead. And I know he had a little bit of a setback with the injury, but I think what I've loved about Breece always was his ability to take a setback and grow from it. And I feel like Breece will come back an even better football player than he left us last year. So I'm really excited for Breece. And obviously we've got 3 guys on this New York Jets team. So all of a sudden, man, we become Jets fans over in Ames, Iowa. So we're really excited for Breece and that Jets team.
Coach, I'm looking at your schedule, your non-conference. You got Iowa, you got Northern Iowa, you got Ohio, and then you're talking about this Big 12 conference. And my goodness, it's a balanced breakfast your schedule is, but y'all are lunch packed. How are you preparing for this new Big 12 and really trying to make the most of this 14-team league in its only year for which it's going to have 14 teams?
Well, to me, it's exciting. Yeah, you're talking top to bottom in our conference is as good as you're going to get. And I think the competitive balance, the depth of this conference, we lived it a year ago. We were a young football team, one of the youngest teams in college football, and, lost 7 games in the last drive or last possession of the game. And, I thought one of the great things about it was the growth in the experiences that we were able to get, but it was a great reminder that you better play A football in this conference every Saturday if you're going to expect to win football games. And then you look at our non-conference schedule on top of it. You got 2 in-state rivals, and then you play a game against a team that played in the MAC championship game a year ago, and you better bring your A game there if you want to win. And so I think that's the thing that's always been exciting for us at Iowa State. You kind of got to go up the rough side of the mountain here. There's never going to be an easy way to the top, and if you're going to get to the top, you're going to have to do it as a team, and you're going to have to play great team football. You're going to have to win in the details and win in the margins. And it was great, probably a lot of ways for us to kind of be reminded of that a year ago and sink our teeth back into what that process looks like to go win football games. And it'll take everything of that plus more to be our best this fall.
I love that. You're going to have to go up the rough side of the mountain. I wonder, does that speak to your character? Because everything I know about you, Coach, is you've embraced doing it the hard way, and you seem to think that that's the only way to get it done.
Well, I feel like for me, that's my passion, and that's what I've loved about probably my own journey as a human being and as a person, and it's probably what I love about Iowa State. You know, there's no easy way to get there, and you're going to have to find a different path at times, and yet we know whatever path that's going to be, it's going to be a challenge because you're going to have to do it some ways the old-fashioned way, and you're going to have to do it together. You're going to have to be unified, and you're going to have to do it as a team. And to me, that's why I love coaching. That's my ultimately what I enjoy the most about what I get to do is getting young men and getting an organization to believe in each other and be willing to be unified for one common goal and one common purpose, and put our ego aside and really come together as one to become our best. And those, when we've been our best, we've been able to do that in a really powerful way.
I want to ask about Hunter Dekkers and his maturation going into 2023. Last year didn't go exactly the way that he might plan. I think he would admit that too. What have you tried to do to help him become a better quarterback this season?
Well, I think it all starts with the humility to take the lessons you learned from a year ago and be humble enough to be able to address those issues and say, where are our gaps and how do we move ourselves forward? And what I'm really proud of, Hunter, is he had the humility to do that this offseason. He had the ability to, for both mentally and physically, look at that videotape and say, where can we grow forward? And I think not just for Hunter, but really our entire program, myself included, when you don't get the results that you want, you have to have enough humility to be able to sit and look and say, where can we grow forward from it? And, I think Hunter's done a great job of that. He's certainly got a great staff around him. And quite honestly, our side of the ball on offense was very young. You lost a lot of great players from 2021 team, and with that great players, you also lost a lot of experience. And so, there not only was Hunter growing forward, but that offensive line, the new running backs, the new receivers, there was a lot of growth forward for everybody. But I think one of the things that last year gave us is it did give us great experiences, whether they were positive or negative. If you had the humility and character to look at it and be able to begin to fill in the gaps, then man, those experiences can really serve us well moving forward. And I think for Hunter and really for that offense, I think it's really shown to prove and to give us the guidance and the roadmap to move ourselves forward.
Coach, I'm a student of history, and I love the history and the story of our sport going back 150 years. But one man speaks to me in a way that no others do, and that's Jack Trice, and for which the stadium is named. Could you tell me a story about you learning about what Jack Trice means to Iowa State football and one of the reasons why his memory is so important to your program?
Well, for me, it's really powerful. The first day that I got to Iowa State, and as I was preparing for my introductory press conference, there was a book on Jack Trice that was in the football office, and I picked it up. And I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Jack Trice is from Cleveland, Ohio. Jack Trice grew up in the same hometown as my father, Hiram, Ohio. And, for me, it was instant. It instantly glued me to this story and this powerful human. And then you read the true meaning behind this trailblazer of a man, this man that had the courage at 18 years old to go from East Tech High School in East Cleveland and come to Ames, Iowa, to be the first Black American to step foot on the Iowa State's campus as a student athlete, to break the color barrier at Iowa State and to transcend the lives of so many student athletes for over the last 100 years. The story is powerful. The courage, the commitment is powerful. And, there's a great letter, and obviously was a great football player, but the courage of this man to be able to stand up and to transcend the world, it's powerful. And I think for me, from day one, it's been an anchor for myself in teaching what our program should stand for, what an honor it is to step on a field that's named after him and his legacy. And so for myself, for our football program, it's a staple of what we've tried to build our program for and about. And, there's a powerful piece in the letter that Jack wrote, right before he passed away and before he played in the game in Minnesota. And he says, the world is expecting me to do great things, and I will. And I think I've tried to take an I will mentality in building our program, and our kids have tried to take a we will mentality as we continue to build our program forward and honor his legacy. And obviously this year, 100-year anniversary of him passing away, and what an opportunity for us to show the world and tell the world just about who Jack Trice was, what he stood for, and this trailblazer mentality that he not only brought to Iowa State, but really for so many brought to the entire world.
Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
I'm pleased to be joined by UCF head coach Gus Malzahn. Coach, how you doing?
Hey, doing great.
Coach, I wanted to get started with this. You took the job at Central Florida believing that the program could reach new heights and that the recruiting landscape, given its trajectory, everything that you've been able to do in the past says, hey, I could turn this into a winner. Now that you're in the Big 12, do you think that there's any other barrier you have to overcome other than just winning football games?
No, I think everything's set up. When I took the job, I thought it was a gold mine. I thought if the right guy ever got here would stay here and build it and not look at it as a stepping stone, it could be one of the best jobs in college football. Now that we're in the Big 12, I really believe that's true, and the sky's the limit for our program.
Well, one of the reasons that I was excited to talk with you is I mentioned to you before we got started taping that I graduated the University of Tulsa at a time when you were offensive coordinator there. So I got familiar with the kind of offense that you're running, and I got had a lot of fun watching you play or watching your teams play. My question for you revolves around John Reese Plumlee, though, in that he's just a different kind of cat. I've never seen those sorts of wheels on a quarterback, and if he can put it together with his passing, it feels like you got a gold mine there. What are you expecting from him, given the kind of quarterback play you've had in the past?
Yeah, very excited about John Rice. I actually recruited him out of high school when I recruited Bo Nix, and we were trying to get them both. He ends up going to Ole Miss, and he ended up playing receiver the last year there. When he went in the portal, I knew he was the perfect guy to run our offense, and so last year he was actually still learning to play quarterback, during games, and he improved each game. It's pretty unfortunate he got hurt late in the season, but this past spring, his development, pushing the ball vertically down the field, his mechanics, it's like night and day compared to what it was this time last year. So he's a great leader. Everything is really set up for him.
So, Coach, I'm fond of saying that UCF won a national championship in 2017. So I got to ask you, when you see folks that say that college football playoff national champion Alabama won the national championship, what do you say to them?
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, we played Alabama that year, and we played Georgia. We actually beat them in the regular season, both of them. Then we got a chance to play, UCF in the bowl game. And I'm talking about they were on that same level, there's no doubt. And I think they beat us by 7. They had 7 or 8 NFL players. So, I don't really get too much in the debate of that. I just know that that was 2 of the better teams, and we were a really, really good team that year too, and we were just a hair away, and they beat us. So, that was a great team.
This is a time when you were still head coach at Auburn. And, Coach, another thing that I get into debates because that's my job. I'm a talk show host. But I tell people that Cam Newton is the best college football player anybody's ever seen or heard about. I'd just like to know from you, what kind of a quarterback was that to have running your offense when it felt like if he didn't get it done, it wasn't going to get done, but it always got done?
Yeah, I'll second that. Cam Newton is the best college, football player, much less quarterback, that I believe that's ever played. What he did in the 1 year that we had him is just unbelievable. He was our leader. He willed us to win. Offensively, we didn't have a whole lot of NFL guys. I think one of our tackles got drafted in the 7th round, and he didn't play in the league very long, and we won the whole thing. He was a joy to coach. He's probably as hungry when I had him and as fierce a leader as anybody I've ever coached. And the numbers what he put up against the top defenses really in America were really unbelievable that year.
I mean, between him and Nick Fairley, I said, show me the other guys from that team that you saw have careers in the NFL, and it's difficult. But it also goes back to something you're very good at, which is identifying talent and then developing it. Like, I'm from Tulsa, which is another way of saying down the road from Springdale, and I remember those programs that you had with Mitch Mustaine and whatnot, and your trajectory since leaving that program. Can you describe to me what it's been like for you to be a high school football coach who goes and does what you have, going from Springdale to Tulsa to Arkansas State to Auburn, now to UCF? What's it been like for you the last 20 years?
Yeah, I'm living a dream. I've been real blessed. Everywhere I've been, I've had great players to coach. I've had great coaches and great administrators. And, I got a chance to get in college football and got a chance to coach some of the best players to ever play college football. Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, Peyton Hillis. I mean, that was really a blessing. And you just talked about Cam Newton. So I've been in the right place at the right time. A lot of times been very blessed.
What do you think you're capable of doing in 2023 with this Central Florida team going into your first year Big 12 conference play?
We've been building this roster for about a year and a half, knowing that we were going to have to take the step to the Big 12. I really feel like we have quality depth on both lines of scrimmage, and I think that's the key anytime you're moving up. We have our quarterback coming back. I think that's very important. I think we got 6 starters on both sides of football coming back with our punter and our kicker, which both of them were phenomenal last year. 18 transfers. A lot of those transfers were not just starters on other teams, but they were impact players. So really feel like in the depth department we're setting good. But, hey, you talk about a challenging schedule. I mean, we've got 5 road games, in-conference road games, and we have to go to Boise State early in the season. So, we're going to have to bring our lunch and play really good football, this season.
It doesn't seem like you are as intimidated by the changes that we've seen in the sport, the transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, branding for the players. How have you been able to keep an open mind when it comes to all these different changes that you're being asked about and implementing into your program?
Well, the unique thing for us is we have a young, up-and-coming school. I mean, we got a large fan base, but the average age of our alumni is 36. So, being able to adapt, it really fits us. Being cutting edge, being creative really is who we are. And so I really believe with this day of the new age of college football that, our program and our school allows us to really adapt at a fast level, and that's been really good for me.
What else I think is interesting about this, Coach, is that you and the play calling duties have kind of been synonymous. I got to ask, you're going to keep those, number one. And number two, what do you learn about yourself in calling games, not just building the offense?
Yeah, Darren Henshaw's our offensive coordinator. He will call plays this year. And this is really, it was my idea. This is really one of the first times that I wasn't encouraged. I made the choice because the new age of college football for a head coach with the demands, NIL, roster management, one-time transfers, they're greater than ever before. And so I'll still have influence. There's no doubt about that. But, that was my decision.
Well, that's also indicative of the sport. Like you mentioned that, and there are a number of guys that come to mind when I think about play callers who are head coaches. And I understand that being part of an identity, but you accepting this role of CEO, of having a 360 view of the program, not only feels necessary, but right. How difficult is it for you to continue to take a step back and make sure that you have everybody's attention everywhere you need to be as opposed to the offense?
Yeah, probably halfway through the year, I think we played Cincinnati and we had a big win, and it just hit me like I don't have the time to do everything that I need to do for our program. And so I started thinking that way, and then, of course, when the season was over and, I hired Darren, it's been really comfortable, for me. And, I just think There's a few coaches, head coaches, that still call plays. They're really good at it, but I really feel like, it's going to be more challenging each year for guys to continue to do that.
Well, Central Florida head coach Gus Malzahn, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
Thanks for having me.
And that's going to do it for our first episode of 2 from Big 12 Media Days. My thanks as always to our lead producer, Tyler Wojak. Our senior producer is Catherine Donnelly. Our production assistant is Kiara Santana. Our social media maven is Javion Duncan. Our leads of screening are Jack Coakley and Torrin Westfall. I'm the host, RJ. We will see y'all on Friday. Deuces.